I grew up in Nogales, Sonora, a border town in northern Mexico. When I was a kid, I was very motivated to do well in school. I wanted straight A's, and I needed to be recognized for it. When I reached secundaria, which is grades 7 through 9 in Mexico, like middle school, I even entered a school-wide math competition. In 7th grade, I won and really struggled at the regionals. I wasn't used to that feeling, and I didn't like it. So in 8th grade, I was determined. I went to my teacher and I asked for extra work so that I could be ready. I won again at school. I won the regionals and got absolutely crushed at the state level. There were things on that test that I had never seen. I was embarrassed. That and a number of other experiences left me really disappointed with the education I was getting. The next school year, I didn't even enter the competition. I was done. In fact, when I finished 9th grade, I decided to go work full time. I gave up on school. 2 years later, I immigrated to this country. I had some friends who had gone to the Phoenix area, worked in restaurants. They seemed to be doing all right, so I figured I could make it too. For my first job in this country, I washed dishes at a fancy restaurant. Then I mopped floors, then I bussed tables, and so on. Eventually, I realized maybe I should go back to school. So I enrolled at Pima Community College in Tucson and then transferred to the University of Arizona. With a mechanical engineering degree in hand, I landed a job with Procter & Gamble in Southern California. I was their process engineer in the production of toilet paper. We made tons of toilet paper. And oh, I wish I kept my connections there for the pandemic. But alas, a couple of years after that, I wanted something more. So off I went to the University of Michigan Business School, got an MBA, and after those long gray Michigan winters, I wanted to be back closer to home. So I accepted a position with Intel Corporation as a financial analyst back in Arizona. I thought I made it. Great job, solid company, really good pay. I mean, this kid from Nogales now had stock options. I was still single and I bought a new house, a Harley Davidson, and a set of golf clubs. Now, if that's not the American dream, I do not know what it was. My father came to this country several years after I did. He had found himself without work, and being older than 50, his prospects in Mexico were not good. As it turned out, they weren't great here either. He found work doing what he did as a young man, driving trucks, big rigs this time. Long hours on the road, gone for days. It was hard on him. One day he called, said he needed to talk. He told me that he had been ignoring this pain, mostly because he did not have health insurance. But he finally went to the doctor when the pain made driving difficult. They found advanced colon cancer. Soon after, he lost his job. They tell me I should go apply for Medicaid, he said. I hate to ask for help, but I don't know what else to do. So I encouraged him to do that. I said, Dad, I'll help you. So we filled out the application, went through the process, and showed up for an interview where we were told that he did not qualify for any benefits. I thought, you must have the wrong case here. So let me tell you about my dad. He lost his job. He doesn't have any savings. My mom doesn't work outside the house. My two younger siblings are still at home depending on him. And he has cancer. How could he not qualify for any benefits? I'm sorry, the lady said. It just, you see, your dad was working up until a few weeks ago, and his income, although just above the minimum wage, puts him above our cutoff line. Now, I understood what she was saying. She did show me the chart, but I couldn't believe it. So much for the American dream. I still believed, with the naive perspective of an immigrant perhaps, that in this country people were not allowed to fall below a certain level, that there was a safety net. So I asked her, now, what do you recommend my dad do now? And she said, all we can say is to go home and reapply in 6 months. 6 months, I said. He's going to be dead in 6 months if we don't do anything about it. He was dead in a year. His name was Jorge Montiel. He was 57 years old. I was devastated. I still had a nice job, the house, the degrees that got me all that, but none of those things helped me save my dad. About a year after he died, I was invited to what someone called a house meeting at my parish. And I went, and there were about 12 of us in that room, including this woman I didn't recognize. She introduced herself as an organizer with the Industrial Areas Foundation. And she said that she was visiting congregations, talking to people about struggles with healthcare. I was puzzled. I thought, why would she come to this suburban, fairly affluent, large Catholic church instead of going to the poor part of town? And why are we talking about healthcare at church? What does one thing have to do with the other? It turned out that every person there had a personal story of struggle. And I was surprised. And when my turn came, I shared what happened to my dad. Now, it was the first time I was talking about this publicly, so I felt myself getting hotter and hotter as I told this story. And by the time I was finished, the organizer pointed out that I sounded angry. Are you angry? She asked. I didn't know what to say. I had spent a year grieving the loss of my dad. I carry this terrible guilt for not being able to fight for him. I mean, I didn't know the system. I thought he was going to get the help he needed, but he didn't. I felt powerless, but angry. I turned to my fellow parishioners and I said, you know what? I didn't realize that I was, but I am angry. I am angry because we didn't give my dad a chance. And I say we because Medicaid is a public institution, which means that we are all partly responsible for sending my dad home to die. I'm angry because we live in a state where we help some but not others. Because my dad was poor, but not poor enough. Maybe he was still going to die from it, but we had the resources to help him and chose not to. So yes, I tell the organizer, I am angry. Now what? Well, imagine, she said, if this church and other congregations would come together and stand with you and people like you to protect folks like your dad. You wouldn't be alone. You could have some power. Now, it's not going to be easy. We could do that if you're interested. And I said, come on, churches don't do that. I was born and raised in this church, and I had never heard anyone say that we could, let alone should, do something about this kinds of struggles. You know what she said? Well, maybe you don't know your tradition as well as you think you do. I was stumped. So I set out to learn about it, and it turned out that she was right. There is this rich, long tradition of Catholic social doctrine that calls us, lay leaders, to work on behalf of justice as a fundamental part of being Christians. I was 30 years old at the time, and that was new to me. At a time when I was drowning in guilt for not having fought for my dad more, suffering from a debilitating powerlessness, this organizer threw me a lifeline. Here, she said, here's a strategy to build power with others so that you can act effectively to protect yourself and those you love. And I grabbed it. I joined the organizing strategy as a volunteer leader out of my own self-interest to save myself. 2 years later, I left my corporate job and started my organizing career. But that was 17 years ago. I'm still organizing because this work helped my grief be transformed into righteous anger. As in the scripture of Moses and the burning bush, my anger has become like flames of fire that burn but do not consume. It is rekindled every time I hear stories of injustice and loss, giving me the courage to join them to achieve justice. Thank you.